Hi guys, it's Lauren, and I want to give a very brief introduction to programming concepts using the Python programming language. I'm going to talk about variables which store information, inputting and outputting information, selection structures, the if-then statement, and different data types. I have created this simple program in Python. And what this program does is it accepts a temperature from the user. It asks the user for a temperature, and depending on what the user puts in as the temperature, it outputs different messages. So what's going on here? This temperature is a variable that I've created. I've named it and created it, and it's going to store information. This equal sign is an assignment operator, and that means that we're going to set the temperature to be equal to whatever is to the right of it. And what is to the right of it? Well, we're asking the user for input, and we're prompting them with this message, what is the temperature today? Now, the user is going to type in input, and that's going to come in as a string of characters. Strings are fairly hard for computers to deal with because they can be so complicated. Words, sentences, punctuation, characters, they can be all sorts of things. We're expecting a number, so we're going to explicitly convert that to an integer, that is a whole number data type, and that's going to let us make numerical comparisons, and it would let us do math and that sort of thing. If, and this is a selection structure, if the temperature that we get from the user is less than or equal to 5, then we're going to output or print to the screen this message, brr, it's cold, and let's just run the program and see if that's going to work. Let's say it's minus 10 today, that's less than 5, brr, it's cold. Now we also have some else if or elif statements. And these statements are only going to run if this first if statement is not true. If this if statement is not true, then the program's going to move on and check these else if statements. If the temperature is between 5 and 15, exclusive, then we're going to print out the message, it's cool today. Now, if this statement is false, then we're going to move on to the second else if statement. If the temperature is between 15 and 25 inclusive, that's including those numbers, we're going to print out it's warm today. And then finally, we have this else statement, and that's going to run if none of these conditions are met. And in programming, it's often a good idea to include an else statement to capture all of those situations that aren't covered by your if and else if statements. So let's try running this and getting that else statement. Let's say the temperature today is 35 and it's hot. Yeah. So that's working as we would expect. I want to make one last point, and that's to illustrate the difference between if and else if. If I change both of these to if statements, this program is going to run in the same way, or it's going to appear to run in the same way. But there is a difference, and I can illustrate that if I change this number to 10. If the temperature is less than 10, but notice there's overlap. We've also got temperature between 5 and 15. So we can think of a temperature, 9, that's going to meet both of these conditions. So let's run this program and put in the temperature of 9, and we get both of these messages. But if I change this to an else if and run it again and put in the temperature of 9, we only get that first message. The else if statements only run if the if statement is true. This statement we check if this statement's true. If it's false, we check this statement. If that's false, we check this statement. If all of the statements are false, we move to the else statement. And this structure is more efficient from a computing resource standpoint, because it means that once we hit a condition that's true, we don't have to bother hitting the rest of these conditions. If this first if statement is true, we don't have to check these other if statements. That makes the program more efficient, and it also gives the programmer more control over what's happening. Thank you very much.